I texted you the other day, and I'm just so excited. I'm so excited. I was trying to think of what a comparable would be. It's like when you make your Christmas list and then all the toys show up and it's Christmas morning. I mean, you drafted a lot of these guys, and now you get to put your eye. It's a couple games, one more to go. How have you felt about the new boys?
Yeah, no, it's been good. I mean, they've worked hard. There's been some good, some bad, some in between, but overall, to be able to, even the first game being down 2, coming back, then down 3-2, come back, go to overtime, and it could go either way. And one little mistake, and then it's in the back of your net. So no, but overall, I know we're a younger team than most, and usually we came here, we might only have one player in a draft year. To have 8 in 1 year, it's exciting.
Well, we were laughing because Trent Cole came out after the game the other night, and he was, well, I think we were 1 for 3 on the power play, and then he kind of caught himself. I can't believe I'm trying to go with stats for these games. So I wonder how much stock you, obviously it's entertaining and you're happy to watch them. How much stock are you putting in? Obviously, depending on age, I guess the 18-year-olds, you're not as concerned. It's go make your mistakes. This is where you make them. Maybe the 21 and 22-year-old guys, it's a little bit of a different story.
Yeah, you'd rather have the guys make the mistakes here. I mean, in the end, it's the first time they're playing against older guys. Some of these players have played in the NHL that they're playing against, or in the American League all year. And it's a little bit of an eye opener, the size, the strength, the speed. It's just, it just gives them their first taste. And then they're going to go to main camp, and it's going to get that much harder. It gets that much bigger, faster, more skill. And I think your first camp, you're a little nervous going in anyways. At least I was, going in, looking around, Patrick Waugh, seeing all the guys you've watched on TV for so long, just sitting in the room, not saying much. And I love to talk.
So this would be, evaluating it's interesting. It's probably more about getting guys ready for main camp. Because it's funny, like I've really liked Sam Morton, but he's 25. He's 7 years older than Zayne Perrick. Of course I should like him. But then also it's like, well, how's he supposed to impress anyone here if he's the best player on the ice? It's like, yeah, well, he's supposed to be. I mean, it's almost like evaluation of this is secondary to what's coming next week in a way.
Well, it's tough because coming in, I thought Sam stronger. There's guys that have been here, Siona, they're going to be more noticeable just because they've been here before, and maybe not in Morton's case, but because he's older. And you saw what he came into the American League, what he did right away, the year he had in college previously. So, he can score goals, and then, all he can do is come and play his game. Yeah. And he's been excellent. So, it's what we expected. I guess I'd much rather see that than have him say, what's going on? He's having a tough couple games. So, for him and Stromgren, they've done exactly what I thought. So it's not much of evaluation. It's just confirming what we already knew.
And so this is first real hockey for some of these new toys, as Dean called them. I sort of think of Perrick, Gridden, and then obviously Basha as very high-end talented players, explosive, like game-changing type talents. Development camp's not really that because where are guys at in their offseason? But here they are, game action, older men, higher level. What have you seen? And have you liked what you've seen from those 3 weapons?
Yeah, I think Zayne definitely wants to do something every shift, highlight Rio, make a play. I think he's just going to settle in, and when he knows, like you can see the way he sees the ice, the way he moves with this stuff, a couple of times when he goes over the blue line, there's 2 guys on him, maybe just chip it in. Right. He tries to make a play. Yeah. Those are going to be things that, again, you don't want to take out of his game, but he'll see how quick and how strong guys are, and he'll kind of adjust as we go on. Gridden, I really liked his game. Both, even last night showed the great speed down the side in the first period, great hands. I thought he just missed, and then he made some unbelievable passes. And Basha, for missing the night before, just the speed, the work ethic, the intensity that he brings each game. It's, I'm really happy with it. I could go through the list of each guy, and you've seen some really good and then maybe, some things they need to work on. But that's what this is all about. This is just about, again, they have not played in a physical hard game all summer, and then you throw them in here and you have 2 right back to back, and with one practice beforehand. So I'm happy with overall the way it's going.
Sorry, I was going to say the calling card kind of seemed to be that you went with skill. That's the one thing you wanted to get, was at whatever position takes highly skilled guys. And we've seen that here. It's a couple of games, and it is what it is, and we kind of keep backpedaling on it. But between Muse, we talked to you after the game the other night, and Misa, and obviously Basha has really been impressive. There is how it translates, we'll find out, but you guys have to be happy with that skill level because it seems to be there.
Yeah, you watch him. We didn't get a lot of power plays the first night, but just to see him on the power plays, zipping it around, Misa over to Basha in the back of the net, like that's what you're hoping for. But I thought for whatever reason, Misa's line really had some chemistry yesterday.
Yeah.
And that's what you're looking for. You're trying to say, okay, who out here, do they have any chemistry? How do they feel? And I do feel like as we've gone along, we could probably miss like 5 empty nets. I don't, with all that skill, I'm like, oh, just touch it in. Oh, nope, they miss. But I mean, they put themselves great pass backdoor, I think, to McNamara yesterday. And just, you want it so bad sometimes. I think, you're pressing a little bit. And I think that's what you've seen a few times in the first 2 games.
You switched up where Sam Honzek was. In game 1, I didn't see a ton of them. Saw a lot more of him in game 2, which is a great development for him. But you also had him next to the 2 guys you talked about, Morton and Stromgren, who are older, guys you'll expect to dominate here. Where are you at on Sam? He's missed a lot of time with injury, and it feels like a huge year for him, given that you're probably going to have him under your umbrella with the Wranglers.
Yeah, the one thing with Sam, we want to be patient. I mean, he did have that year. The first game, would I've liked to see it just pop right out right away. You watch the skating's great, the size, the skill, you see it in practice. We just need that to translate into the games. And I thought he was much better, obviously playing with 2 really good players, but I noticed him last night. He finished some checks. He was in on pucks quick. He's using his speed and his size, and that's what we need. You just need to get him. It's almost like he's overthinking it out there. We just need him to go out and play hard and compete, and that's it. But again, probably missing the whole year. He puts a little pressure on himself coming back into the tournament again.
So when it's his 20-year-old year. He's a late birthday when you draft him. He is eligible to go back to Vancouver, where he spent the last 2 seasons. He could play with the Wranglers. Is that a done deal? Would you like him to be somewhere? Do you bring him to main camp and let his play decide? Or is there a jersey already made and a stall already labeled? Like, how do you approach that guy? Because there's a few others in that spot too.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you're going to see how the whole camp goes. I mean, I guess if I was going into it this year, we'd like to see him in the American League or NHL or wherever he kind of fits in there. For him to go back to junior, is that going to be enough of a challenge for him? Again, he was hurt a lot last year. So, maybe it could be, but I think in my first mind, over the summer, we all talked about it. I can see him. It's going to be pro hockey somewhere.
Okay.
Walteri Ignatchev, we got some eyeballs on him against the Oilers. I don't know how goalie scouts do it. How do you translate? So it's the second tier in this country. How does that equate to what level is this guy playing at as it compares to Canadian junior hockey or high school hockey? But he looks
Steven, right?
It's so what until you get him in your gear and watch him every night, you don't know. But it was a pretty impressive first look.
I thought he was outstanding. Yeah. I mean, I really did. He looked composed, especially playing on a small rink. I remember Yoni Ordio here one year, and Yordi was a great goaltender, but it was 6 goals on 8 shots. I thought, oh boy, here we go. And we pulled him out of that game. So you just never know. And he just said it was quicker, the traffic, it just didn't feel comfortable on the ice. So I never know what to expect coming in when he's playing on a smaller rink, but I thought he was excellent. I told Jordan, I'm like, hey, he's got to finish that. He's got to score. If there's, oh yeah, I should have. Yeah.
Walk us through what you saw.
Well, they pulled the goalie last night, and he grabbed it quickly behind the net, and he's got a really good shot. So he fired it and we were right at the end where he was shooting, and everyone's like, I think that's online, and then they kind of reached up and tapped it out of the air. And
15 feet out of the air.
Yeah, it was high, but it was definitely on track to go in. So, I was giving Jordan a little grief. Well, he should have got one, but he was, I'll tell him to work on that next time.
Well, I don't know if you heard his quote after the game. He said, they told me, this is what the goaltender, he says, they told me not to go up the middle with it, but they didn't say I couldn't shoot. They didn't say I couldn't try and score, so that's what he was going for. But yeah, I was again really impressed for being on the small ice. So now it moves. I mean, you've got one more game here, then you move back to Calgary. Everything kind of shifts for Sam Morton. Things get a little bit more difficult, and Um, Going through last year was kind of your first camp. What'd you learn from a GM standpoint? Do you change camp at all as far as workload, gameplay, number of games, that sort of thing?
Well, I think it's just, you're trying to get guys into games and to have 3 games in 2 days. We're going to be able to get a lot of guys in. It's too bad we can't watch both games, all 3 games. But, I do think having the split squad gives you an opportunity to get almost everybody at camp in the game, which is great, just to give them some experience. Obviously, camp's so short nowadays. We used to come into camp and have 2 weeks and then you have a game and you really could kind of get going. Now it's 3 practices.
Really?
It's amazing that, and then you start your games and pretty much games every other day. And, we have some mandatory day off days in there that we have to get the day offs in. So you're like, and coaches, they don't like day off days at the start of the year, but again, probably a good thing because you don't want to overtax them. I talked to Ryan just about camp. It's going to be a lot of systems early this year. I think we didn't do that last year. So he really wants to dive right into the systems and get going. So the teams, when you'll see them, they'll be a little bit, skewed more kind of NHL, AHL guys than some of the kids. And sometimes we would like to see some of the kids right in those spots. But, I understand Ryan's got to get the team ready. We got to do what's best for the team moving forward. So, we're going to see those kids in some exhibition games, which would be great. But you're going to see kind of some of the more veteran guys on a couple of those teams early on.
Yeah.
If I may, it's been a couple of years with the Wranglers right under your nose at the Saddle Dome. You can really lean on a lot of your staff that you used to have. Well, there's some people in California that do that, and there's people in Calgary that do that. How much have you seen in terms of gains organizationally of having those guys right there, whether it's staff, whether it's the ability of you to watch them? I'm sure there's all kinds of things I haven't even thought about, but just that efficiency of both teams under one roof.
Oh, it's great. It's for me just to be able to go, it's a Wrangler game tonight after work, go right in and watch the game, or be able to see the guys or talk to the guys, go talk to the American League coaches, when we're all there together. It's invaluable, really. And to be able to say, the one day I remember getting a call, hey, Marky's not feeling well. Okay, Wolfies can come up. Yeah. And it's done like that, where you're a little bit jammed up when they're in Stockton or Adirondack or wherever they were. You're like, oh, now we got to get them called up and back. So to be able to call guys up and down, sometimes they're on the road though, so it is a little bit tricky. But, I think the other thing that I really notice is how many, veteran players want to come to a team that, hey, if I do have to get sent down, my family will be in the same place. Sure. So I do think there's an opportunity there too to also add great veteran players that feel like, hey, everyone wants to be in the NHL, but if I'm not in the NHL, to be in the same city would be amazing for them.
Sure.
How closely do you monitor other teams? Being the spot that you're in, you've got cap space, you've got the ability to take on players. If anybody else is in it, it's the complete role. It's again kind of for the second year in a row, but you got a lot of cap, a lot of space, and all of that. How closely do you monitor other teams and what they're potentially trying to do? Maybe you're more proactive, making calls instead of just sitting back and accepting.
Yeah, you call all the teams, and obviously, we all look at the caps, see who might be up against it, who might be looking to make a move. A lot of teams say, hey, we're gonna see how it goes in camp here. We're gonna see what we can do. We might need to, free up some cap space as we move forward. I said, if you do, just so we're a team that's willing to do that.
Happening already, or
I did it over the summer. I've and when you regularly talk to people, they're like, hey, we're not there yet, but we know you're interested in doing something. That probably there's other teams just like myself doing the same thing. So that's, you just want to make sure, because who's kind of jammed up and who's not, and you're trying to weaponize that just like everybody else is. So we're open to doing it. Hasn't happened yet, and you never know when it's going to happen. Is it going to happen at training camp? Maybe a team that says, oh, we feel like we need to do this, or someone doesn't go on LTIR, or they need to have a little bit of wiggle room because they want to make a trade. Well, then we're there to help and also see if there's any, if there's any movement out there. But I think for the most part, everybody right now wants to get into camp, see what they have, and then and go from there. Kind of let their team start the season. So, that's what happens through free agency. It was similar to that last year, but maybe with some of the players we had that were unrestricted, I had more calls early, in that regard. Yeah.
You've got Tyson Barrie in on a PTO. Are you still talking with agents and players about other PTOs? Are you at a number that you're comfy with? Are there a few holes you'd like to fill before, I imagine, the next few days?
Well, I think we're pretty, we have pretty much the group that's coming now is here. We've talked to some other players, just in general, but nothing solid. And, the one thing I said, we're going to bring in our scouts for the first 3 games of pro guys and then kind of get them back to their teams, because is there going to be a waiver guy? Is there going to be, is there someone on a PTO out there that makes sense? Christopher Stieg was a guy that we went to Edmonton and he played unbelievable against us. And then we end up signing.
Well, AJ Greer was great off waivers for you too last year. And people forget about him because he got hurt. But, every year, even Hanley, you think about Pahal, there's been some really good depth you've found off waivers since you've taken over.
Yeah. So you're looking at all the things. I mean, you're open to, anything, you don't want to be closed-minded. Right now we have a lot of guys, we have a lot of contracts. So, I don't see us doing much, but if there's something that makes sense, then we want to be able to move on that.
Brstevich is a guy you got last year, the Lindholm deal. I know the first rounder came. Yermo, who we've seen here in Penticton, also a third rounder is it the Muse pick potentially? This is looking like a heck of a deal. What have you made a Hunter? And maybe take us back to when that deal happened and transpired right around the All-Star break. Where were you at on Brstevich and where are you at now? It seems like he almost, great start to the year, but to finish with 92 points, I believe, as a defenseman in the O.
Obviously, I think he had a few injuries his draft year, and then he kind of played the way, we like the player. Sees the ice, moves smart. Even last game, I was like, maybe they're breakaway, but he got his stick in there to break it up. He reads plays well. He's shifty, making plays. And, I thought the first 10 minutes, like the whole team in the first game, I was like, oh boy, this is not good. And then I thought everyone kind of started to get more comfortable. And the way he sees the ice, the way probably going to need to be a little bit quicker to get back to retrieve pucks so then he can get it moving, especially as he moves up to, the main camp. But overall, we're excited. I mean, obviously we liked him, got to see him a lot in Kitchener, even his draft year. And then last year he just took off again.
And is he locked in for the American League as well?
He would, you want to see it, but 92 points. I don't know how much more you can do, or we want to challenge these guys too, and we want to give them an opportunity to come and say, hey, you know what? Pro hockey's where I need to be, and when you get a chance to do that, it probably makes more sense. But again, you don't want to, we talk about, we don't want to put guys in a position where it sets them back. If they're in way over their head and it doesn't go in, then they lose all their confidence. I don't think that's Hunter at all, though. I don't think Honzek is like that either. So, that's why you never want to 100%, hey, this is where he's going to be, but I would be leaning towards that.
You have a lot of defensemen, and I feel like from where we sit, we still don't really know what everyone is. There's Pahal and Miramanov, and Hanley came in and didn't play a lot, and then there's Brstevich, and you added Tenorti. There's a lot of guys, but there's a lot of unknown as to, if not what they are, then where they're going to fit. Talk maybe just quickly about the Tenorti, because I don't know that anybody saw that coming. And just, it's a lot of blue liners, it seems.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We have a lot of young blue liners, but we felt like, okay, we need to get some guys in here. And a guy like Jared Tenorti, the one thing that competes there every night. The work ethic to compete. And then you talk to everybody around. He's unbelievable guy. His goal is to make the NHL, but if he happens to be in the minors, you have a lot of young guys in the American League too, that need some guidance and support. And, it's a tough league down there. I mean, the fights and everything, not that, but he'll calm a lot of that. Just a big man with his size, with his compete, there's not a lot of fights, but just to know that the young guys have someone down there and also in the NHL. I mean, a guy like Martin Pospisil, he plays on an edge, and you're like, I know Lomberg's going to be in there, and you're going to, Uyghur, they're all going to be in there, but it is nice to have a little bit of size and protection at times on the back end to help support, because Ryan's not big, Lomberg, but he's fearless. So he's going to be in there and everything else. And I think Pospisil's got a little better at the end of the year, but it's just the way he plays, and that's what we love about him, because that's what makes him so effective. I mean, he's one of those intriguing guys, and I can't wait to see, because I do think he has some more offense in his game.
We talked to you right after the Lindholm trade when we were in Toronto for All-Star break, and it was like all of a sudden, okay, Lindholm's going, like, ooh, well, what's going on at center ice? And you had noted that when you chatted with Pospisil and Zary, they both certainly saw themselves as centers, or at least, I can do that. Are you expecting to see a large dose of both those guys in camp down the middle?
For sure. I know, looking at Ryan's lines the other day, definitely both of them are going to get center time. They need to. We need to find out where we're at. And it was nice to see Pospisil play center with his national team. Yeah. So, you're thinking, okay, if he was a center or Zary's a center, those guys, it'll make a big difference for us, because that's the one position I do think we felt like we were a little bit thin on defense. And you saw all the moves we made, and we brought in a bunch of defense. And probably the one area that we felt weren't able to touch it or really help at the time was center. So if one of these guys can do it, that would make life a lot easier for me and our staff.
You brought up Lomberg, and I don't know that we've talked since that. It's kind of almost ancient history, but you guys were very aggressive. I don't know if there was a bidding war, but you went and you got the guy. He was not one that I would have had on my bingo card or radar that you would have been targeting on a July 1. What was it about him? Is it still stemming back to his days with the team, fond memories, or what does he need to do and do well to be a good signing?
The one thing about him, I think, just his whole attitude. Like, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's the best shape guy in camp. He's just won a cup. He loved his time in Calgary. We loved him. I mean, when he left, it hurt. It did. We're like, understand you got to do it. Now he's won a cup. But, I always thought, if we could at some point, that's the type of guy you need. You need a guy with that energy, fearless, team first, everything. And, I know he'd be the first one sitting here. He wants to show, I got more offense. I got more to give, but with the speed, the way he plays, the type of teammate he is, I think having, Uyghur and Huberto here, and how excited they were when we got him too. And I think, when you look at what we might need, hey, he's a guy that's going to bring a lot of energy, and he wants to play higher up in the lineup. That's the one thing.
And it's about starting to, because there's a lot of players that maybe didn't want to be in Calgary. Now here's a guy that clearly does. It's kind of like, as you rebuild the roster, you're rebuilding the culture of the team as well, and feels like he's a part of that.
Yeah, you want guys that want to sign and come to Calgary, and I think that's where everybody we brought in, Jake Bean, 100% wants. Probably took less money to come back to Calgary, which means a lot to me. It says a lot about him and how much he wanted to come back. Anthony Mantha, I'm coming. That's the one thing. All these guys had different opportunities. So for them to come here and say, I'm going to show you guys, I think this could be a good fit. I think there's going to be a good opportunity for me here. And now we're going to, find out, and everyone knows kind of what happened last year. So I think this year, just talking to backs going in, it's a whole different, even at the golf the other day, I thought it's just a different, it's a good feeling. It really felt good for the first time in a couple years. And I don't know why 2 years ago, maybe it was tense or hard. It just felt like, oh, here we go. Like it was a lot. I don't know if it was just pressure was there or we just, I don't know what it was, but it felt like that was a tough camp. And then last year, it really started with everything happened, like just the media and, the players aren't going to re-sign. And it was a lot. So now this year, we're going in and feel like there's just a real good atmosphere around the team right now.
You wanted to follow up on Mantha?
Yeah.
Go there right now.
Well, and I guess just kind of thinking about that, you go back 2 years ago, you're coming off of some playoff success, and then Daryl's kind of got things tight, and then Huska comes in looking for the fresh start, but you got all these UFAs that you're going to have to deal with. So yeah, it is a bit of a fresh start. Again, we were sitting there, I don't see the Flames doing a whole lot. We're spending time talking about how is Coronado, how are these guys, we've got to make room for these forwards, and then in comes Anthony Mantha. It's like, okay, well maybe is this an addition play him up the lineup, give him power play time, spin him into an asset at the deadline, or because he's a big body that doesn't really play big, but there is skill and he has scored in the league.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think given an opportunity, when you watch him, especially when he was in Detroit, we got to see him more, it felt like, but he had a good year last year too. And then for whatever reason, it didn't quite work out when he got to Vegas.
I thought it would.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be, I thought it was going to be, but that happens, So I think for us, on a 1-year deal, bring him in and see if there's chemistry there. If he does have chemistry with Huberdeau, or, if there's another line that he has chemistry with, you watch him in juniors, all he does is score, and he's got a great shot. And if we can give him some confidence and put him in situations to score, power play, different, key situations, 6-on-5 goalie pulled, those are what we have to do. And we feel like, he could be a big part of this team. And then those are the decisions you have to kind of wait as the season goes along to see how it all plays out. And hopefully you see chemistry and everyone's like, wow, that really works. I mean, I think probably if you ask anybody when I got to Calgary, if I was going to play with Jerome, probably not,
Right.
And it just happened. We had some chemistry for whatever reason. And we had some success.
We were chatting the other day just outside the rink, and you were giving us, so what's the Kuzmenko update? You said you were watching him on the ice the other day. He's such a unique character. We've kind of joked about, he dresses his own way, marches to the beat of his own drum. Obviously highly skilled. He's a unique dude. And what was he? How's he looking?
Great person. He's got a great personality. He's full of life. Like he's having fun. And I think sometimes when you think of Russian, you might think they're going to stick together. He's at whatever table. He's walking out with Kadri. He's walking out with whoever. And you're like, just a real nice personality. And he's having fun. You guys see the interviews, and I don't talk to him as much as the guys, but he's always having fun, and his work ethic. That's the one thing. He's the last guy in the ice shooting pucks all year long. So I thought, it's going to be interesting to see. I think in the last 13 games we had the best power play, and I think a big reason was him. I thought he brought a lot. We moved players around, and it felt like Sharon Govich kind of, up on this flank, and then Huberdeau on the other side. It just seemed to work with Weegar. So I'm looking to, and then people will say, well, it's down the stretch. Games didn't mean anything. But for me, still, you have to do it. And to be able to see that kind of go well, I can't wait to see kind of camp and see if we can continue that into the year.
Because it's fascinating. We talk about the Lindholm deal. I didn't even mention him. So you get the first, you get Brestevich, you get Yermo, you get a pick. And you've got a guy that scored 39 goals when he came to the NHL as a much older rookie, but in his first ever time in the best league in the world. Like that's undeniable talent. And then after the pickup to the end, he's kind of around that 40-goal pace again. So to me, a pending UFA, how do you sort of come to that decision of like, look, we've struck gold here and bought low on this guy that potentially is a 40-goal guy versus, my God, this Lindholm trade tree could set up the organization for a decade if we could spend this kind of assets. And I know there's an agent and prices in there, but I mean, you dealt with 5 of these last year. This is a high-profile one this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going in to see how it starts again. I think when he first came in, he had a little bit of an injury, so it was tough to see. He was kind of playing through something. Then we once he got that taken care of, and it wasn't bad. It was just a little nagging injury that he had. But then literally from the time he's like, I feel 100% good to the end, I'm like, it was 2-3 points every game.
He was sick in there too, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, he had, I think, he said he had a bad virus. Like, I didn't know what, Kent's like, he does have something viral going on. So, so he's not feeling well, nagging injury. And when he kind of got over all of that, I was like, whoa, this guy is on fire. Like and he brought a lot of life to the room. I mean, and it's hard down the stretch when, you're not coming to playoffs and things aren't going well, but he brought life, and I think that's kind of, you think when Jacob Pelche, he brings that kind of to the room, so I'm looking forward to seeing how that starts at the beginning of the year with the new guys we have. And then, all like Backlund. I haven't seen Backlund this excited in a long time about starting the season, which is positive for me. And then you hear what Uyghur's comments are. I mean, Uyghur wants to be here, turn this thing around, and let's get going in the right direction. And that's what you didn't hear maybe last year from some of the guys, but this year, all the guys are on board, and that's why now I'm so excited to see how this team kind of starts the season.
Yeah. Pelts, you mentioned needs waivers this year. You hope that's not something that even crosses your mind. We also talked about there's a lot of wingers. You're trying to fit in Matt Coronado as well, who had an excellent AHL campaign last year, and maybe we saw some strides in the NHL level. Walk us through what you saw from Jacob last year, because it was a tough year for him, and then what you think he could be this year.
I felt like last year, first period, the shoulder injury, 4 months off, came back, played really, really well in Boston. Okay. I don't know if you remember that game. I thought, oh, wow, this is good. Then fast forward a couple games, gets hit by Trouba. Again, another setback. And then even when we sent him down to the minors, I could tell, that personality that he has, I think he was not in a good space as far as where his game was at, and he'd probably tell you didn't play the way he would have loved down the stretch. He still had 13 points in 18 games, but not the way Jacob would say, that's my game. Right. So the one thing, talking to him, I mean, he's hungry. He knows last year we put that behind us. He's like, I got to show everybody. And the one thing, I love the attitude. Like, he's like, I haven't shown I'm a regular NHL player yet. I am going to. So he brings energy, juice, that skill set, and he's skating well. I mean, that was the one thing I was so excited. Even last year before he got hurt, it was the best I saw him skating in a long time. I thought, oh, he's really taken a step in the skating. So it'll be interesting to see at camp how his skating has hopefully has improved again this year.
And it seemed too, going back, there was a bit of a connection between he and Huberdeau. Now, it's maybe too easy, the French-Canadian guys, but it was pretty clear the way they would behave with each other on the bench. There was a real connection between those two. You'd love to see that come to
even
fruition,
on social
right?
media. I think yesterday Huberdeau was like, "Go, son!"
Yeah,
like, They're leaning into it.
Oh yeah, I mean they love it is. It's like a father-son relationship there. But I think and when you have that and you have that fun, it's fun to go to the rink when you have that connection with players. And I think that's what it's all about. We want to have some fun this year. I think the other thing is, hey, we look to see where everybody thinks we're going to be. Like, hey, great, no problem. I remember Bob Hartley, I think it was the 13-14 season or right in there where
the Findaway season.
Yeah, he said
14-15. Johnny's
14-15.
first year.
Yeah, sorry, 14-15. Yeah, he's like, we have to believe in here. Mm-hmm. We have to do this as a team. We don't have one person that's going to win the games every night. We're going to have to. It's win by committee. Who's going to step up on every given night? But we got to do it together. And that was kind of our mantra back then. And I feel like that's probably going to be very similar to this year. That hey, we believe. No one else believes, but we believe, and then you got to do it for each other. And I think that brings a team really closer together.
Another piece that's, you go back to last year, so many guys are going to be on their way out. I don't know if quiet isn't the right word, but Igor Sharangovich signs on long-term with this team. Rookies might come in and out, we don't know, but he is going to be a part of this. Maybe he's a centerman, maybe he's not. But what was that contract negotiation like with him? Because it was pretty quick, his fitting in as a Flame, and he had a hell of a season.
Yeah. Well, I think the one thing at the end of the year when the locker clean out day or whatever, it felt like I know he must have said something that thought people were, that.
Well, we're great at reading it.
Yeah.
Unless you're gushing.
Yeah. Maybe it wasn't like, but that was not actually true. So when we first were able to start talking, we're like, hey, would he have any interest in coming back or signing long term? It was yes, and then we just got going, and then Dan Milstein, it was quick. Yeah. It really was. It didn't take long, and we felt like it was a great deal for us, and he felt like he was happy with the numbers. So it's nice when it works that way. And he wanted to be back. He really did. But so I never did see what he said, but people were saying, "Well, does Sharangovich really want to be here?" I'm thinking, I think he likes it, but he really does. So that's always a thing too. When you have a guy that's only been here a year, wanting to stay, wanting to resign, I think that sets the tone for the team moving forward. It's a great sign, and he had a great year, 30 goals, and he had it, it was a little bit of a slow start where to kind of fit him in. And
First month. he was
yeah,
seven for a long time.
yeah, it was, and again, that's the thing. Who do you have chemistry with? Who do you, and that's even on the D pairing. I'm like, I kind of have an idea who I would think, but you're let's see who kind of has chemistry here during training camp and then go from there.
I like that you get a deal done with Dan Milstein because that's about a 30 roster, I think, is also Dan Milstein client. So you get those done. No friction there. It is quite something. You've got a lot of Eastern Europeans, Belarusians, Russians, and that seems to be Milstein's portfolio. I mean,
but he's got
keep him
Zayne correct.
close. It is correct, too, of course. I recall seeing that.
So, I mean, it's weird how it works out. Everybody's like, you might have too many of one. But Dan does a good job. Jan works hard for his guys, and he gets deals done. So that was, definitely have a lot of his guys though. I'm like, he's like, can I come sit in the office with you? I'm like, well,
maybe get a group rate or something like that.
If we do,
Not sure that works.
Discount. Yep, team discount.
Last one on the team for me. You've got 3 goalies. You've talked. You're excited to see what happens. Fans have been waiting patiently for Dustin Wolf as he piles up accolades: goalie of the year, goalie of the year, goalie of the year, goalie of the year, AHL MVP. I mean, very excited. But I know your staff also likes Devin Cooley and Dan Vladar. We've seen flashes of a great goalie, and I'm sure he sees this as a massive opportunity as well.
All 3 do. Yeah. All 3. I mean, they're coming into camp. Probably the thing I'm most interested to see how it works and see who kind of rises and takes that. Is it going to be a starting role where a guy plays 70? I don't think that's really the NHL anymore. Is it more 50-30? Is it 40-30-10? I don't know how it's going to go. I mean, that's the one thing. These guys are going to kind of dictate how this is going to go. And talking to Jordan, he feels very good with all 3 guys. And then just talking to Dan at the golf the other day, and I was watching videos. He was nice enough. I got some videos when he just got back from the surgery, how well he was moving. He said, hey, my conditioning, my wind's a little down. That was in the summer, but now he's back. He's like, I wish I might have done this earlier, only because
played through pain?
Every time he went down and up, pain. Every time down. He says, the one thing I love now is I go down, I get up, no pain. He's like, I should have done it earlier. But again, when you're a younger guy, you don't want to give up that spot to, you'll fight through the pain. But now that he feels pain-free, I'm looking forward to see how he does.
So it was a trying, I think we talked to you right after the end of the season between the team, you miss the playoffs, you have to trade a bunch of guys away, and it's nobody wants to be in Calgary, that whole thing. And then you get into the off season, you get all these draft picks. And I guess, how do you feel if you were to give yourself a report card, or how do you, because I know it was stressful for you. Everybody's watching to see what the new guy is going to do. And I think in a lot of ways you did a hell of a job. How do you kind of give yourself a letter grade, or how do you feel it went?
I feel like I learned a lot. I made some mistakes along the way that I won't make again. That, it's just when you're negotiating with other GMs and, when to pull the trigger on deals, when not to, how hard do you push, tough. Probably the hardest part is when there's no moves and there's teams that people won't go to. When you like deals, how do you get them to do it? And I still don't know that. That's, that might be the hardest part is, there's just so many things behind the scenes that, through my first year, but to have Don Maloney there, to have Dave Nonis, Brad Pascal and Jerome, just to be able to kind of throw out ideas and, when's the right time, because we really, we did try, with Hannafin, I thought it was getting very close to a deal. I thought it was, I think game 2, it was going to be done. And, we lost in Pittsburgh, and for whatever reason, it just stalled a little bit, and then it was on and off again. And, but it's interesting, moving forward, just if, kind of with Sharon Govich, we like Sharon Govich, we're locking Sharon Govich up. Yeah. Little things like that, I probably, dealing with agents, dealing with the other teams, you really kind of get a sense of you're learning the people. Sure. You don't really know the people. You don't know how they deal in negotiations. And, so that's, you're feeling them out. They're feeling you out. The one thing I think, when I had a deal I liked, I did it. I think Zadorov a little bit, we did that early. Obviously he went public with what
Felt like a distraction.
Yeah, it became more of, should I, maybe it was that one where if I waited till the deadline, could I got a second, maybe, but you're trying to do what you think's best for the team and taking away that. So, as much as we love Zadorov, that was one. Was it early? Was it not? Those are the little things like in my mind. And then the whole group talks about it, moving forward, was that something we should have done or not? But, we felt at the time that was the right thing to do. So we made a decision, let's do it and move on. And, obviously, it is what it is. And because there's no, that's the other thing. You don't know what if there was an injury. And then you don't get anything, so that's always.
We kept
Tanev, my God.
We kept tapping the tables like this Tanev thing.
Down the tunnel.
Times. Oh my God.
When he hits it was in Rangers when he went flying into the goalpost. I thought, I didn't know if he was going to get up or not, and it is nerve wracking. It is that's the thing. It's a fine line, but I do think now I feel a little bit more comfortable. Even going to the meetings. Sure. The one nice thing is I know a lot of the guys and I know they're all super competitive. No one's going to help me. I'm not going to help them. We know that, but they're good people, and they will, I guess if you have other questions about team staffing, so, everybody kind of helps everybody. But when it actually comes to trades and stuff, you're not getting any help from anybody.
Does Jerome get an office? Does he? What's
the Jerome?
What's the Jerome
plan
scenario here?
He's going to come and go again. Yeah, that's the thing with the boys, especially Tijin Kelowna. He'll be there, and then now Joe in Edmonton, and then his daughters at Brown, Jade. So, yeah, he's busy, but he's going to be around more this year, which will be nice. I'd like him to take a road trip with the guys, see what it's all about, be in a little bit more when he can. He's here right now. He's going to come back for main camp, and then. He's really just starting to. The one thing about Jerome, he's got a ton of ideas. He really knows the players, especially last year's draft class and the next 3 years. He's played against him. He's coached against him. He knows the kid. Like he knows him way better than us, the person. So, it's fun to kind of get his perspective, a little unbiased. Hey, what do you think of this player? Can you watch this? He watches a ton of video. I know he's like, have you seen this? Oh yeah, I watch him. So being out in the West, he'll be able to catch a lot of the players, especially as they go through kind of Kelowna. And then we'll get him in for sure. But he's nice to have because he's just hungry and excited about being part of it.
He learned that from Rhett Warner, right? All that hard work and
that's right. That kind of drive and intensity.
You guys saw
for sure.
Rhett.
Hi, Rhett. Where is Rhett, guys?
Yeah, that's right.
Final one for me. I mean, it's fun to get out here. For personally, I used to work for this organization, work in this rink, and I know how excited this city was when this rink came. You're now 3 years away from getting a new rink, and this is maybe just jumping the gun on the obligatory locker room jokes we're going to see, but you got to be excited.
Oh, I'm so excited. You know what I mean? Because you have lots of meetings and we're kind of fitting the space out to know we're going to have a practice rink there, to know, we're going to have that designated area with all the stuff that you should have in today's NHL. I mean, if you want to compete, you got to have the best of the best, and we're going to be state of the art, everything. And even I didn't see the kind of the rendering until the day it came out. Looks great. The outside, I'm like, they don't even show me. They show me the locker room area, parking, all the little things people don't think about. We're working through it right now, and so I actually go up on top of the parking garage and look down, and I'm like, oh, this is exciting. You know what? I never knew it was actually going to happen, but now it feels like, okay, we're starting, and I think it's going to be great for the city, and I do think it's going to help, as we're moving forward, getting to where we want to be, free agents, people. It's a great city. And I think the more and more people that play in Calgary, and that's like with Ryan Lomberg coming back, he's excited. I mean, he's excited to come back, and we're excited to have him back. So, he knows what the city's all about. And now it's a hockey market. It was one of those things when I was watching the finals. I was in Florida for game 5. And, I'm like, I got to get down. We're going to get something to eat to watch the game. I got to hurry to get down there. And we went down like an hour and a half before, Nobody. And I thought, and the game started, and there was a couple, and then I saw what was going on in Edmonton, and I know what it'd be like in Calgary. And so I definitely was, it's weird how you just think it's like that everywhere, but, they for sure were watching. They were watching, but it wasn't the way it would be in a Canadian market.
Thanks. Maybe we'll catch up after camp and before game 1.
Or you guys coming? You got to get them down to some of the practices. But you guys do the show at the wrong time.
I know, it's terrible.
You want a twin? I can give you a kid if you miss the young ones.
I am empty nester now. Maybe I need one. Then I'll be like, okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Hey, guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more of our content right here on the Flames Nation YouTube page. We had a bunch of great long-form interviews. You can check out some videos we've done as well outside of the studio. And, of course, if you want more writing or merchandise stuff, flamesnation.ca or nationgear.ca. Appreciate you watching.